Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to Let's Try Across the Obelisk. Now, stop me if you've heard this one before. A roguelike deck building card game where you navigate a map that has branching paths, and then you fight a boss at the end of that map, which then sends you to the next act and a new map with branching paths. Along the way, you will be getting card rewards that you add to your deck. You will also be unlocking content, including new characters and new cards and new items for future runs. That's right, I'm talking about Dr. Deckenstein, the game I made in 2016 for Ludum Dare. And since then, there have been many people copying my recipe. Now, sometimes there are spires to slay, and sometimes there are trains to monster. And now there are obelisks to cross. Now, by now, I mean, Across the Obelisk actually came out 3 years ago, but it's mostly flown under the radar, which I'm not entirely sure why, because I started playing this thing and I am addicted. This is the game that is developed by Dreamsight Games. It is published by Paradox Arc, the indie publishing wing of Paradox. And standard disclaimer here, I've done a lot of work with Paradox in the past. I will be doing work with them in the future. I always like people to be aware, although this video here isn't sponsored. Yeah, so at a glance, this feels a lot like, oh, is this just like kind of like Slay the Spire? And superficially, yes. But then as I played it, and I've got about 40 hours into this at this point, it is a completely different beast that it just feels radically different through a few different ways. First of all, you may have noticed there's a multiplayer button over here. 4-player co-op available. And it makes a lot of sense when you look at how the game plays. There are numerous different single-player modes. Adventure mode is the primary story, which is also where you unlock a lot of big content. Obelisk is fully randomized for replayability. We got weekly challenges and this weird singularity mode as well. Let's go into adventure mode for the baseline thing, and we can have multiple save slots, which is great. And in fact, if I go to exit here for a moment in multiplayer, you can see that you've also got save slots over there. So I've got a partial run that has been started with some of my friends that I'm eager to get back to. All right, so let's start this up. The first thing we do is we do assemble a party. That's not the button I want to click. We get a party of 4 people. So it feels like a RPG adventure group. And I recommend that we should have a warrior, scout, mage, and cleric or healer role, but you can really do whatever you want. At the start of the game, the characters that you will have Magnus, you will have Andron, you will have Evelyn, and you will have Reginald. So Magnus is one of the warriors. They all have a slightly different descriptor. So Magnus is listed as a mercenary, Andron is listed as a ranger, Evelyn an elementalist, and Reginald the cleric. But if we look at the subcategories, so for example, if I just look at warriors, I've also unlocked Heiner. I really like Heiner. Heiner is some sort of animated suit of armor, a golem, a something, I'm not sure, but I really enjoy playing Heiner a lot. I have not yet unlocked Bree the Warden or Grookly the Berserker, and then we've got Yager over here, which does require some DLC. Like I said, this game hit 1.0 about 3 years ago, and since then the developers have continued to work on this game. Massive balance changes have happened since then, and they come out with some DLC and expansion content, which introduce new characters. It's a sort of game that's very easily expandable, and they could probably work on this for forever if they wanted to, continuing to add more stuff, which has me very excited. So Andron is the ranger I've got. We've also got Thul's over here. Excuse me, the lizardy assassin. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and build out a setup that I enjoy quite a lot. I really like Heiner. I actually like Andron a lot. I think I'll pick him. Evelyn as a mage is sort of a generalist. And I really like my mages to be a little bit more specialized. Wilbur is super duper fun with his electricity focus, and Cornelius, the pyromancer, is probably stronger when it comes to damage output. Maybe I'll throw Cornelius in here. I really like Wilbur is really good for like clearing big groups, but I think Cornelius has got more single target stuff. And he's going to be particularly handy in Act 1 with his fire damage. And then for the healers, both Reginald and Otis are fantastic fun. Reginald's got a lot more direct heals. Otis has got a lot more shielding. So Otis does a little bit more damage mitigation than damage healing. But I don't know, maybe we'll throw Reggie in here. One of the things that you do as you play the game with the character is you do unlock perk points for them. So there's this whole talent tree system that's available. You can reset whenever you want, and the quality of life in this game is really high. you can save your configurations, have multiple different configurations and different setups with different focuses on stuff. You can even export and import your character builds to make it easier to share with people. Amazing! Really, really, really impressed by that. How do the healers, like, how do two characters differentiate each other? Well, they're going to have a slightly different pool of initial starting cards. They'll have slightly different base stats over here. So their health, I think the energy, well, so far everyone I've seen is 3 energy per turn. And the speed can also vary dramatically and has a huge impact on stuff. We've also got these traits over here. They start with a particular trait. So Reginald is going to start with Bless. So start of your turn, gain 1 Bless. And then as he levels up within a run, we've got a few different choices that we can take at different levels. And all the characters are like that. They start with 1 innate ability, and then as they level up, they get a choice of 2, which can be pretty build defining. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin. Oh, we can do a game seed as well. So like, for example, I could do the Quillitine game seed, and then if you did it, we'd get the exact same map, the exact same run. I haven't actually played with the Quillitine one. So in adventure mode, we do have a story. I'm going to skip this cutscene in the interest of time. And there is the map for Act 1 that you can see right over there. We start over here on the left from the tavern, and our first stop will be in the town, where we can do a bunch of setup. We've got place on the map, which are going to be fights. We've got some unique things here. We've got the caravan with a map transition, so it's like fast travel kind of thing. Here we've got a suspicious hatch we can go down to for a side branch mini dungeon. These books here are all the various events, which looks like I've seen all of these. Sometimes if you haven't visited, there we go, this Crossroads event I haven't done yet. So bunch of question marks. I might be interested in doing that. It might open up some more content. We can see some exclamation marks here. These are some places that happen to have some quests available, which could lead to character unlocks. Well, I've already done the Scared Pigman and the Watermill events here, or the Whispers in the Shadow one. I haven't unlocked those characters, but maybe they have a follow-up going on. I'm not sure. Over here, this is Yager's Diary, the Wolf Wars. This is actually, if you go here, it'll be like, oh, you need DLC there. So I don't have any DLC on this particular run. This is completely vanilla, just to show the baseline experience. By the way, here's the boss, and then there's the transition to the next act. So we're going to start off, we're going to go to town. And in town, there's a number of things. So we've got some currencies up here. We've got gold. We've got shards that are used for things. We got our character list. And then we've got 5 clickable spots in this main view. Well, we've got some stuff in the top right to talk about. But the Magic Forge over here is where we can craft new cards for the start of a run. So we're not limited by whatever our initial setup is. We can go and purchase additional cards. So these are all the ones that I have unlocked. So to unlock a card, you have to have seen it on a previous run. You don't have to, like, so after you do a fight, you are presented with cards that you can draft to add to your deck. If you see a card there you haven't seen before, it becomes unlocked. You don't actually have to pick it, but then you can theoretically see it in future runs, and then you can go and add it to your deck right from the start. So you can do some modifications there. Notice the save load. We're going to look at that in just a second. The Church allows you to remove cards from your deck. Now, in this first town, removing these cards is free, although there is a minimum deck size of 15. So right now I can't remove any cards until I've added some cards. So I have to craft something from Magic Forge first, for example, to go into to remove something else from the Church. The other thing we can do is the Zagarian cart here. This, you can pay money, and you basically get exactly the same thing that happens as after a fight, where each one of your characters is going to be able to draft a card to add to their deck. Or you can always skip and then you get some shards instead. So that's another way to get some cards early on. Less control, although very rare cards. So there's a rarity system over here. So these cards here have no colored symbol at the top of their card. These are common. These are uncommon cards with green. We've got rare cards with the blue. We've got epic cards with the purple and mythic cards with the gold. And you'll notice these are not available for me to craft at this time. The altar. Altar lets us upgrade cards. Now, cards can be upgraded in 2 different ways. So let's say I click on Fireball over here, one of Cornelius's spells. This is the base Fireball. It costs 3 energy to cast. It deals 23 damage to the monster I'm targeting. These numbers will be different depending on what perks you've picked for your character. And then on each side of the targeted creature, those will also take 13 damage. So if I hit someone in the middle, they'll take 23, and both their buddies will take 13. This Fireball, all cards can be upgraded in 2 different paths. So we've got the blue variant over here for the fireball. It just deals more damage in both ways. The golden variant for the fireball does even more damage, but it gains the vanish trait, which means it can only be used once per battle, because instead of being discarded, it vanishes. It does come back for the next fight, but these become one shot for the fights. I actually quite liked it for the fireball because I don't always feel like I have to spam fireball over and over. So just casting these fireballs one time each, but in a more powerful variant, feels pretty good. So sometimes vanish becomes something that feels like a negative, and sometimes the vanish feels like a positive. Depends on what you're trying to build towards. For Reginald, for example, if we look at the heal card that he can get, again, our left branch just makes it a little bit more powerful. The right branch makes it cheaper and turns it into a vanish card, which I'm kind of totally fine with, for example. So we can upgrade those cards. The cart we've looked at, and then there's the armory for actual items. Our characters have slots for 5 different items. Well, the 4 items plus a pet, for example. The only pet I currently have available for purchase is the bunny, which is pretty good because it allows every other turn. It gives you the ability to, it self-casts Hurry Up, which gives you extra speed, which is quite good for initiative. If at any point you get a second copy of the same item, it turns into the corrupted version, which is more powerful. And there's ways to just find items that are corrupted in the first place as well. I think I'll give the bunny to Heiner over here because he's like apocalyptically slow, and he does tend to get hit a little bit more, so the resistance will help, and we'll do that. So I'm going to equip a bunny over there, and then what I'd probably do is shop for a little bit of equipment. Now, I only have a certain amount of gold and a certain amount of shards, but those sharp-eyed people may have noticed these rewards over here. After you complete a run, whether you win or you lose, your points for the run get converted into currency, or the currency in the run get converted into more currency. I'm actually not entirely sure what generates the numbers, but we've got these chests. We can stack up to 3 of these and we can pick those up. So if I wanted to do a lot of crafting and a lot of upgrading, I could go ahead and claim this. What we could do is I could store up to 3 of these and then use them all for one big mega giga run. Now, for convenience, we look at Andrin over here and we click Save Load Deck. I actually have a deck pre-designed for Andrin over here with some changes that focuses on melee attacks and bleed attacks. And you can see a few things. First of all, I've purchased some extra cards. I've got 2 extra Ruptures and 2 extra Deflects. Those have been purchased. I went and removed all the aim shots from my deck. They're not over here. And I've upgraded a whole lot of cards. I haven't upgraded the Deflects because they're just kind of great as is, and I'm trying to save some resources. If I want to craft this, I would need 2,000 shards for that, which I could easily get if I just go and pick up one of those chests over here that I've stacked up. Final thing here is the town upgrades. You'll notice we got a currency called supplies. This is the sort of meta progression that, in addition to the unlocks and the perks for your characters, this is another meta progression over here that you can upgrade your town as you do some runs. Anyway, I'm not going to do any other prep here. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in so that we can showcase how some of the game works. So let's say I decide to take this northern branch over here to head over to this watermill and figure out what the heck's going on. So my first stop, I could go directly here. I can go to the caravan. I think this will give me a shortcut forward. Actually, let me click on that. Yeah, pay 60 gold to use the fast travel services. I'm going to do that. And then you can see I can jump farther ahead over here. So let's check out this watermill. So, Whispers and Shadow, you enter a nearby watermill. It seems empty at first glance, but then you hear a whisper directed at you. You aren't my prey. You're scaring them. Leave, please. But first, I have an offer for you. If you happen to find a very strong venom and give it to me, I will join your group after I finish this job. So, this is how you unlock Thule, which I've already done. We can accept the quests, and then sometimes, depending on what characters you have, you might have a particular response. So if I had Thule in my group, I wouldn't have seen this event because it wouldn't make any sense. I'll say that accent is definitely that of a lizardman. I've helped your tribe before. I can't believe it. It's you, Reginald. I'm Thule's, a little lizardman. I really appreciate what you did for me in the past. Right now I'm on job. Could you bring me that venom? This is the same as accepting it, but we do get some items as a gift immediately. Hey, lovely. So I've got some more I can draft for. I can draft 1 item for each character, and if a character doesn't care for an item, they can just skip and get a little bit of money. I think the dart pouch will go quite well on Andrin, so I'm going to grab that. Again, speed, I would really like a little bit more speed on Heiner. You know what? Yeah, let's give him the slippers. So you get a little bit of speed at combat start. Bludgeoning. I could just give you some gloves for some powerful right off the bat on Cornelius to do a little bit of damage. That sounds fine. And then I may as well grab, I'm going to grab the opal ring to all resistances. So the leather armor gives more resistance to slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing. But those attacks tend to hit people near the front more than in the back. So I'm just going to take the generic all resistance here. These are not very impressive items, but they'll give us a little something to get started. And then we've got an event. So we haven't gotten a fight yet. We've got a farmer's caravan. Transporting grain, seem very nervous because they're near the edge of the forest and these parts are full of bandits, so you approach them cautiously. They don't see you as a threat, and you can talk to them. So I could try to bargain, offer to escort them to a watermill in exchange for a sack of grain. What'll happen here is everyone will draw a card, and the energy cost of all those cards will be added up, and to succeed, I need a 4 or lower. And luckily, if you mouse over the die icon over here, it tells you what your success probability will be. I don't love those odds. We can tell them we're just passing by. I'll buy a sack of their grain for 60 gold. We'll see what that does. It's giving me some XP. Cool. The XP is quite important because you can see here we're at 75 of 160. XP in a run is what determines when we unlock these extra traits, which are unbelievably good. So our next option, we can stop to get a heal. We can run another event that'll lead into another event. It does lead to this. Wow, am I really not going to get into a single fight until the boss? You know what? I'm tempted to do that. They're going to kick our butt because we really haven't improved things. Maybe I'll go for like more of a regular fight over here. I don't know if since I didn't purchase anything in town, I probably shouldn't have skipped things with the caravan, but what the hell. I'm going to go to the Fang Gate. We don't need to heal. We're at full health. We could forage to find some loot. Let's give it a go. So this is an example. We're going to draw a card each. We need a total of 5 or lower, which we did. So we found a bunch of gold and some crystals and some XP. Lovely. All right, let's fight the group at the South Fang Gate. Oh, this doesn't happen for every encounter. I don't know if there's a map indicator to show that it's an option. No, it looks the same to me. So here we have an option. We could make the fight tougher. So if I accepted, this is considered extreme difficulty. 4 skulls, very difficult. My enemies would have heavy weaponry. So they get +3 damage. They'd be immune to vulnerable. And when a monster hits us, it would apply vulnerable and slow to us. That would be brutal, especially with the fact that we didn't improve our deck. We didn't invest anything. This would be very difficult. But we could choose one of these 2 rewards. From being able to remove 2 cards for free from our deck. Do note that there's still a 15 card minimum. So right now we're at there, so we wouldn't be able to use that. Or we can get access to an exotic equipment shop with a discount. If we had tons of money for lots of items, that'd be quite good. There's no way I'm going to accept this challenge. It is worth more score at the end of the game too, but no, I'm not going to accept this challenge. I'm going to fight these guys as is, and I might have a really hard time, again, because we haven't actually upgraded anything going on. All right, let's look at battle screen. So we got our party to the left, we got our enemies over to the right. These are the actions our enemies are planning to play. We currently don't have any vision of that. Their cards are face down. There is a, I guess it's kind of a debuff that you can apply to enemies, which give you vision on their cards. I think the tutorial has you start with an item that has that listed, or that has that built in, so that you can get a little bit of information to start off with. So we actually don't know what these guys are going to do. And this is the initiative order over here, which is based on your speed. There's no roll for initiative. It's just your raw speed as is. So Andrin over here has currently their speed is 23 out of 21. So their base speed is 21, but we have 1 stack of the fast buff, which gives you +2 speed. We've also all started with Fortify, which is thanks to Heiner's basic ability here, Unbreakable. Start of combat, all heroes gain 12 block and 1 Fortify. In fact, we gain 2 Fortify because of the perks that I have leveled up with Heiner. Fortify is quite good because it lets you keep your block in between rounds. So right now it is Andrin going first, and then it'll be followed by a Cutthroat, followed by a Brigand, and then Heiner, and so on and so forth. All right, so I've got 6 energy here. Normally you start with 3, but I've got some perks on my characters. So I guess this thing, even though I haven't upgraded their decks, we do still have some perks which are going to help us out a little bit. I'm going to start by playing Deflect because it's amazing. It's free, it draws a card, and it gives me 5 block, which I might refer to as armor at some point, but this is just an extra set of hit points above your thing. Energy is listed down below. 10 is the max energy you can have at any given point. This yellow is the current energy that I have, and the green is how much I'm going to gain 3 more after this round. Energy, unlike some of these other games like this, energy does carry over for round 2, so if we don't spend all our energy, we can bank it for the next round, keeping in mind that there is a limit of 10 in total. Which makes it, because some of the cards are very expensive. I've seen cards that cost as much as 9 energy to cast. And And so you can really bank things up if you have a lot of cards that cost 0, and then you can save your energy for like some big burst down the line. I've got 3 attacks in hand. I've got my Poison Dart, my Aim Shot, and my Slice. I forgot that I didn't actually do the upgrade on Engine. I'm like, why do I have an Aim Shot in here? The Slice, notice it only targets the front monster, whereas Poison Dart and Aim Shot can be targeted at any monster whatsoever. I think I'll probably go ahead and just target the first one, since my Slice will target the person in front, and I think Heiner has some things that target just the front enemy directly, so we'll focus fire on them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the Hunter's Mark. It's going to put 4 stacks of mark on them. They take +1 damage per charge. So now, for right now, if I were, and you do get a nice preview, if I mouse over Slice, which is supposed to deal 13 damage, although you can see it's only going to deal 8 damage to that front enemy. Why is that? Well, if I mouse over, in the top left corner, you can see the resistances. I can also go and click over here to see breakdown. I can see that this character has a 36% resistance to slashing. That's why I'm not doing as much damage as I could with Slice. So only 8, but if I Hunter's Mark you, and then check the Slice, it's now 11 damage, because they're taking +4 from this, but then they still get some amount of resistance. All right, so let's go ahead and Slice. Hit you there. And then for Aim Shot, I do get to choose where to aim, but I'm going to go and put the damage on the front. And then the Poison Dart deals 3 piercing and then applies 3 stacks of poison. So poison is damage over time. And most of the damage over time, and there's a number of different ones. There's poisons, bleeds, burn. For damage over time, I guess those are the 3, but then there's shock, which works a little bit differently. There's dark, there's a bunch of different debuffs that you can apply to things. Some of them happen at the start of the turn. So bleed and poison are very similar to one another, but bleed happens at the start of an enemy's turn and poison happens at the end. So a heavily poisoned enemy that's going to die still gets to act first, but a heavily bleeding one would die instantly. So obviously bleed feels better that way, but maybe we can apply poison in large numbers, for example. Poison and bleed both ignore the block as well, whereas burn happens at the start of their turn, but it is blocked by their armor. So again, different, like I like how they've differentiated the damage over time from one another. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and poison this guy, even though, in a sense, if I wanted the poison to tick as much as possible, I want to apply it to someone in the back, but I like focus firing. So I have no more cards that cost anything. I'm still going to play the Adrenaline, because remember, energy carries over to the next round. So this will give me, it costs 0, give me 2 energy now. It does give me 1 tick of fatigue, which means next round I'll get 1 less energy, but remember, we're carrying everything over. So I'm going to end my turn with 4. Oh, I forgot. I do have the option set to auto end. Let me turn that off for the for this video here. When you can't play anything, I have it set to just automatically end the turn, but I had wanted to discuss that we are carrying over extra energy. You can actually see here with Andrin, he's only got 2 ticks of green because of the fatigue. He's getting 1 less energy from the start of turn, but we carried over a bunch of energy, so he's still gonna have 6 to play with next turn. All right, so Heiner, as our tank, has got a lot of defensive spells available. So Guard, for example, I can cast on any hero. In fact, he gets 22 block, which is a lot. And normally, so block goes away at the end of the round. Notice the round timer over here. So let's say I had someone really slow. Let's say Heiner was going at like speed 0, so he was last act, and he loaded himself and his friends up with a bunch of block. Then the round ends. All that block instantly goes away. It doesn't persist until, say, the start of your next turn. It goes away at the end of the round. However, because Heiner is who he is, he's put Fortify stocks on everyone, which causes block to not be removed at the end of the round. And then things like Guard gives a bunch of block and also more stacks of Fortify. So I could put this on anyone, but Heiner's very likely to be targeted by more stuff because he's near the front. So I'm going to go ahead and put a Guard, so we've got more armor. And again, oh, right, I forgot that Fortify stacks don't, or Fortify doesn't stack. Only the highest number that you currently have does that. So if I apply more Guard to myself, I will get more block, but I'm not getting more Fortify stacks, which is fine. I think we're going to prep for a big shield charge here. So I think I will go and Guard for the armor. I'm going to intercept on myself for more block, because shield charge, you can see, deals 6 damage plus X, where X is 40% of my current block. It also applies 2 stacks of slow. So we're going to hit this guy. He does have a bunch of block that we're going to get through first. We're going to punch through the rest, and the slow does slow him down, which will affect where he operates in the initiative order. So we've got my draw pile. I've got my discard pile. If I've vanished any cards, it's over here. And if your draw pile runs out and you have to draw something, you just reshuffle your discard. All right, so we'll end turn. Now we've got Cornelius coming up, and he is a fiery boy. In fact, he even lights himself on fire. If we take a look at his traits, Ardent, start your turn, gain 2 powerful, so each stack of powerful is 5% more damage. But he also suffers 2 burn. Burn is damage over time. Lowers your fire resistance a little bit, but then you also take fire damage at the start of your turn. So you can see I've actually got 5 burn on myself. But there's some interaction there with Cornelius, like inner combustion scales. X is equal to half of my burn over here. So 2.5, probably rounded down. So an X of 2. So this would deal 12 damage and apply 2 stacks of burn on my enemy. It also adds more burn to myself, which makes my next inner combustion even more powerful. But is that the direction I want to go? Well, I'll tell you what I think I'm going to do is I do want to go and get rid of this guy. Now, he's already taken, we can see the little prediction of the amount of damage over here. He's going to take 5 burn damage at the start of return. So I really only have to do 20 damage to him. And then he'll die at the start of the next turn. I could do it with just a Searing Touch, which actually does have to target the frontmost monster. So that might not be a bad way of doing it. Now, it's possible that something will happen and he'll get healed, or these debuffs will be dispelled before he gets to act, and then he won't die. But right now, if I Searing Touch, he is scheduled to die. And the skull here has got the little red outline, which means he will die at the start of his turn. If it had the green outline, it would be from poison, and he would be dying at the end of his turn. And it's very important to differentiate the two. This guy here is currently stealth, so I actually can't target him. I think what I'll do is I'm going to flare the guy in the back twice. And then I guess I'll use an inner combustion. Again, even though it will give me some extra burn stacks. I can block the burn with armor, so if I keep stacking some armor or shielding on Cornelius, I can prevent him from burning himself. All right, Reginald does start with a couple of Foresights in his starting deck. I'm not convinced that these are terribly strong cards, and I do tend to go and purge them, but it will show off the sight mechanics. So for example, this Shaman in the back, we have no idea what the Shaman's going to do. But if I Foresight, so it puts 3 stacks of sights on there, revealing 3 cards. These do get expired over time. We can see he's going to cast Shamanism on himself, which giving him Shield and Insulate, which protects him from fire, cold, and lightning. And he's also going to cast Healing Totem on the lowest HP monster. So he's going to be healing this guy, which will prevent him from dying. Luckily, Cornelius, or sorry, not Cornelius, Reginald is the kind of healer that likes to lay the smackdown. Oh, he won't actually quite kill this guy. Damn. Damn, this guy's got, yeah, 22% holy resistance. Because that would be the play. Kill this guy before you can heal the guy in the front. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kill this guy here before he gets healed. I mean, that just means the Shaman's going to heal himself. Actually, this guy's slow enough. He's going to die before he goes again. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to Holy Smite. Give me a couple of charges of Bless over here, which does increase my damage done. And also heal received. I can't Foresight you. It costs 0, so I may as well apply it to someone, but it makes no difference. No one is injured. You do get a lovely preview on the mouse over. Again, the quality of life here is amazing. I did say there's one aspect in the UI that I think could use a tiny improvement, and that's in the tooltips for the damage over time. It would be really useful if this let us know if this was affected by block or not. So burn is affected by block, poison, and bleed. We don't have a bleed stack, but they are not. Oh, I guess maybe the wording. So burn is suffer, whereas poison is lose 2 HP. So I guess the lose HP is your hint that it's ignored there. Okay, it is in there. It's just not quite as obvious right when you start. Anyway, there's no reason for me to heal anyone. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a barrier up on Cornelius, which will give him 5 block now, which isn't important in any way whatsoever, but it'll give him 8 stacks of shield, which will be block next round. Oh, and all this will carry over because we've got Fortify. Overkilling on block doesn't really matter. We could put it on our front tank because he might get, but he's not going to get targeted. We know that there's no damage here. So yeah, I'm just going to barrier Cornelius to protect himself from himself. We're going to end a turn with 1 energy left over, which will just carry over to the next turn. Oh, were you doing to burninate yourself? Did I miss that? Oh, because I hit you. And that brought you to within lethal range. Well, it wouldn't be a deck building roguelike game if you didn't occasionally miss lethal. So again, we'll deflect. There's nothing that is currently. Sometimes some enemies will have things that will trigger every time you cast, like play a card, basically. In which case, deflect becomes no longer as a no-brainer. But right now, there's no reason not to always play deflect. An expert tracker over here lets us look at 6 cards of anyone's deck, discard any of them, and then it grants them 1 inspire, which is draw another card. You know what? I'll be greedy and I'll use it on myself. And so I'll say, like, you know what? I'm not interested in these aim shots. I'm going to go ahead and discard those. We'll leave poison darts and a couple of slices on top of my deck, and that'll come up first. Hey, that's great. Annoyingly, all of my, well, not all of my attacks. Aim shot can target someone who's not directly in the front. But ultimately, if I'm going to spend my energy, I guess I'm going to use my slice to finish this guy, and then I'll rupture this one a couple of times, giving him some nice bleed. And let's confirm. Yeah, it does say lose 10 HP. So again, I guess that lets us know that it's not affected by block. Love Scroll of Intellect. That is wonderful. Heiner, you're going next. We're going to give you 1 inspiration and 1. What's the other thing called? Energize. So you'll have 1 extra energy and draw 1 extra card. And Fire Shield, random monster gets hit, and it gets hit for 12 plus 40% of my own self burn. So you know it'll hit you. And there we go. Finish you off. Lovely. All right, so this is what it looks like when you finish a fight. Oh, there is, I meant to show, there's a little UI element at the top under the round counter. You get better rewards if you finish the fight sooner. So we got more money, more experience, and cards are 2 tier levels higher. We still can get common cards, so Fast Strike over here, for example, is common, but it increased our chance of getting the rarer cards over here. So we got a coat of arms that we could pick up, and it's already upgraded. Not only is it the blue rarity, but it has been upgraded to the blue subvariant over here. So self-cast dispels any vulnerable that I've got, gives me 51 block and 4 reinforce. Again, you can see reinforce says charges do not stack. So casting multiple spells that give reinforce don't stack with one another. Just the highest number you currently have gets applied. And then we lose 1 charge at the start of the turn. So Coat of Arms would be an insanely big defensive card. Do I actually need it in this deck? I'm not sure, but I'm going to take it. It's a high quality card for now. We might want to do some purges later. We'll see. Sneak Peek has been upgraded in the Golden Path. Yeah, just I guess with the colors, it looks a little different to me, but so this requires that I'm stealth. Endrin over here doesn't have anything that gives him stealth at the start of the game. If we're playing Thule, Thule has a bunch of stealth mechanics right from the start. I do really like the bleed buildup, and in fact, I'd probably I tend to base my characters around that. But I don't think I'll pick up any of these because Sneak Peek is upgraded, but it doesn't work for me. So I'm just going to choose the shards in this case, rather than add an unupgraded card to my deck. Because what always you always have to keep in mind with deck building games, whether we're talking about like playing Magic the Gathering in real life or playing any of these computer games, is adding cards to your deck isn't always better, because what it does is it dilutes your pool of cards. You want to make sure, we always have to think about, okay, at the start of my turn, I'm drawing X cards. Whatever that might be, it'll depend on what kind of buffs and debuffs are applying. Let's say, start of my turn, I'm drawing 5 cards. I want those 5 cards to be as strong as possible. So if I'm adding something that decreases the strength of a random draw of 5 cards, then that's not good. And, you know, unupgraded cards might be a little less enticing. Although, again, I really do think stacking a billion bleed is a great way to go with Endrin, and my save deck for him starts him with 4 upgraded ruptures. So maybe I'll throw it in here. Why not? I really like the electrical effects with Zap. Now, that's not what Cornelius is built around, but it is quite cool. We've also got this the shadow damage and also the dark effect that you can go and apply to things, which is really neat, but we're not really building those. And again, these aren't upgraded. They're also not terribly high rarity, so I'll just choose these shards. Innervate's quite cool. So, I mean, first of all, it's a purple rarity, so it's obviously quite rare. This one's already upgraded. This costs nothing, which makes it pretty easy. Target a hero, it gives them an energize, so they get more energy. And so it's costing us 1 of our draws, right? Every time Reginald draws this card, that's a card he drew instead of something else. But it doesn't consume any of our energy. And it's going to be a no-brainer. There's never a time we're not going to want to use this on someone. Potentially ourselves or the tank for some heals. Shining Force hits a monster for a bunch of holy damage. Apply Sanctify. Sanctify is really interesting because it lowers their holy resistance, but also anyone who attacks that enemy heals 1 HP per charge. So this puts 7 stacks of Sanctify. So if anyone then attacks that enemy, they will heal for 7, and then 1 of the charge goes away. This also slows our enemies and gives them vulnerable. This is actually a monstrously good attack spell. Mind Visions. This is actually quite tempting. I think I'll probably go with Innervate, because right now, I think pumping I don't know. God, that is a lot of damage. I'm gonna go Innervate. I like extra mana. All right, let's go and fight and probably die against the boss. Notice we do have this grain sack. Right, I bought that grain sack. What do we do with it? Well, probably what's gonna happen is after I clear this and go to the next act, there's gonna be something on the map that gets that can consume this grain sack for some reason. Some event somewhere. I don't know where it is yet. And we also have a reminder that we've got this quest for Whispers in the Shadows. So if we went over here before the boss fight, we've got a few options. We could try to rest. First, we'd have to draw some cards, but I'm at full health, so there's no reason to do that. We could try to set up an ambush. Start the fight with stealth. As a group, we'd all draw a card and we have to come out with 6 or higher. We only have a 45% chance of that. And if it goes badly, I don't like that. So I think we'll just do a straight up combat against Elmer. And there we go. Now, it is worth noting that Tainted Trunky in the front, as well as Elmer themselves, are immune to bleed. So if you were playing a heavy bleed deck, this would be quite the challenge to get started. The Tainted Dryad is not immune to bleed, however. On the other hand, Tainted Trunky and Elmer are vulnerable to fire, and we do have Cornelius with us. So that's a pretty good little balance. Let's go ahead and deflect, because again, it's a no-brainer. So again, this guy is immune to bleed, which is more than a little annoying. Part of me would like to go and rip through the Dryad as quickly as possible, because she's got heals that are kind of annoying. So then we have to decide, like, do I think I can focus fire someone who's not in the front row? And I think the answer is we're going to have to try. So I'm going to go, I'll drop the poison dart on her and the 2 aimed shots. And because Trunky is immune to bleed, both Rupture and Slice will do the exact same amount of damage. This Rupture would apply a stack of slow, but that's not really going to matter. Trunky's already going slower than everyone else in our group. So I'll just Slice and then save the extra energy. So I'll end turn, carry an energy over to the next round. All right, Cornelius. Oh, we got a Scroll of Intellect. Now, when we upgrade this, one of the upgrades does upgrade to a draw immediately, which becomes amazing. Scroll of Intellect as is just sets up on your next turn, you get 1 extra energy and 1 extra card. So I could cast it on myself in preparation for the next round, but I often like to cast it on someone who's about to go next. So both Heiner and Reginald are going to go before the bad guys, and I could pick and choose who I'd want to do in what order. I'm going to go ahead and throw the Scroll of Intellect on Heiner. So they'll have 1 extra card and 1 extra energy. And then we are very happy. It would be nice to burn this Dryad down, and we could do it with flares. But I'm going to use Searing Touch because you get extra vulnerability to fire. And in fact, I think the right play here is to go and just plan on finishing you off completely. So if we do... Yeah, this will be enough. 15 will bring you down to 11, which is enough burn, and you'll get a tiny bit more burn. Okay, so you're going to die at the start of your turn, unless the Dryad is healing you, which might happen, but I'm going to drop some fire on the Dryad as well. So we'll see if she heals Trunky, then he's going to survive to make a move, and maybe I was greedy and I should just finish him off, but we're going to see. At some point, I got to go and kill the boss too, but let's get rid of some of these numbers. Right, you are up, and you might finish off. Let's see here. We've already got this. I guess, okay, I'm going to Steel Skin myself, which is going to give me a Reinforce, protecting against physical damage. It's going to give me a bunch of armor, and it's going to give me some shield for the next round as well, so we'll toughen ourselves up. Everyone's got some armor. I'm not worried about them taking damage. I suppose I may as well go ahead and do the bluff here. Cost me an energy to draw a card. Oh, perfect. We drew Heat Laser, which is lovely. It deals damage to all monsters when X is equal to cards in hand, which I have spent some, but that's going to be okay. You'll see it also gives me some armor, and it brings me to 3 stacks of Fortify. Again, they don't stack, but it'll replace the 2 with a 3. It also triggers Taunt, so everyone will be forced to attack Heiner. So with that in mind, I'm going to want to make sure to buff Heiner's armor as much as possible. So I'll guard myself. And it didn't replace the fortify. And I'm also going to use the intercepts on myself. Now, if one of these people was attacking that in a way that hits everyone, then these other people are still going to get hit. But anything that's single target or randomly targeted will be forced to attack Heiner, who's got the most armor. So that seems pretty good to me. All right. And then, right, it's Reginald that's going to go now. She is going to die. She's going to die from the poison. And again, if she self-heals, then she might not die. Right? She's going to take 10 burn damage. She'll have 2 hit points left. She could self-heal before the poison takes effect. Let me go and foresight the... I guess I'm going to blast her with the flash regardless. So I'm going to foresight the boss so we can see 3 of his cards. And see what he's going to do. Random hero. Well, that's going to be Heiner. And then Sprout. Okay, so he's going to self-heal. He's going to thorn himself. And he's going to empower himself. And he's going to do one other thing that I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit her with the flash just to make sure she can't heal herself. I think what we want to do is I want to innervate Cornelius. And he doesn't really need the health regen, but the +1 energy is going to be good. I think as a fire mage, we're going to be really reliant on him casting a lot of spells. I could cast some heals, but literally no one is hurt, so I may as well just save Reginald's energy for the next turn. All right, a little bit of burn on the boss. He's bark skinning himself. There's the Sprout we know about. Flower Shuriken, which we know is going to hit you, and then Catalyst. So let's talk about some of these buffs over here. So powerful. Every charge of powerful is not 5%. Is it 5% each and it's giving us the total here of 10%, or is it 10% per charge? I thought it was 5% per charge, but I don't know. He's regenerating. He's got thorns, so we're going to take some damage when we attack him. Although with our armor, that's going to protect us from that. He's reinforced, so he doesn't take reduced damage from slashing, piercing, and blunt right now. One of those charges goes away every round, and yet powerful. But he's on fire, and we still have 2 stacks of sight over here. So that's really interesting, right? Like, the sight tells is how many cards we can see. We only see 2 of them because we've got that, and we lose 1 charge per thing. So this stack here is both the number of rounds of sight is available, as well as how many cards we can see. It is nice to get this intel, but I really don't prioritize sight. On the other hand, there are some cards that scale their damage, their X value, based on the sight on the target. Let me go and actually, do I want to expert tracker? I'm going to expert tracker Cornelius. And okay, we're going to ditch the fireball because this does a lot of splash damage to things. There's no water. I'm going to ditch this heat wave. And we'll keep the rest there for you. You're also going to get +1 draw. Then I'm going to deflect over here. And you are immune to bleed. We could still rupture for the base damage, but you are immune to the bleed. We're going to poison dart. We don't have to manually target. Yes, there's some thorns going on, but that's fine. I'm going to aim shot because it does 16 damage. The slow doesn't matter. You're already slower than everyone else in the group. So we'll do that. I'll save 1 energy. And then here. I'm going to go back into my settings, and I'm going to re-enable the auto end. I do kind of wish that the settings over here didn't say exit, because I keep thinking, is this going to quit the game? But no. You can, by the way, exit whenever you want. Your progress will be saved. You can also restart combat whenever. When you lose the combat, it'll ask you if you want to restart it, which is really kind. Because you'll restart with the exact same seed. Everything will still happen the same way, but you might have realized, oh, I made a strategic mistake and want to do that. It's nice. I actually do appreciate that. So let's start with the inner combustion, which is going to add more burn onto Cornelius. We're going to be thorned here as well. So Cornelius is going to take some damage, but he feels like a pretty YOLO-y kind of guy. So now I'm going to Fiery Shield, which deals damage scaling based on my self-burn, and then will also shield myself. It's a random monster, but in this case, we know it's a random monster. So this is shield. This is going to get converted to block at the end of the round. So I'm prepping some block for next round. And let's go. I'm just going to flare. It's going to do less damage than both searing touches, but... Oh! I didn't realize the thorns goes away with every attack. You know what? This thorns is basically gone, so let's ignore it. Okay. Good. Well, we could drop our giant coat of arms over here to give us a massive amount of armor. Why don't I start with just the bluff to deal a tiny bit of damage to the boss and draw a new card and see what comes up. All right. I'm going to go ahead and coat of arms myself. I'm going to drop the intercept on Cornelius. Normally, this would be kind of... Well, he might be getting attacked by the boss, I suppose. But remember, he also has to fortify, so his actual block will carry over if it's not used, which is great. Divine Grace is interesting, because it's got a built-in Dispel 1. It'll dispel, so 1 debuff, 1 curse on someone, and it'll start from left to right. Now, the only person with a curse, which are these purple things, is Cornelius of the Burn. Again, I love the preview, right? Not only does it tell us what it's going to remove, but it also shows us what the heals will be. So if I go ahead and drop this on Cornelius, it'll remove all those stacks of burn and heal him. Now, Cornelius, does he want the burn? Yes and no. I mean, he doesn't want to die, but he also does more damage with it. We're nearing the end of the combat regardless. I think I will go ahead and do this. Although he had enough defense, maybe he would have been fine. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and smite, and flash. And I mean, you're nearly dead. Unfortunately, you're not going to die now. Now it's got the preview. Oh, he healed it off anyway. A little bit of bleed on everyone. Unfortunately, Eindrin is going to take some damage. I like to, you know, obviously we want to end each fight fully healed because our health does carry over from round to round. But we'll drop a Hunter's Mark on you, and then well, it really doesn't matter what we do. Because we got lethal. So excellent combat performance. Doubles target bleed with bleed out. Wow. If I was using my Eindrin build, my Eindrin deck that was really bleed focused from the start, and then we could pick up more bleed stuff with Heiner as well. We don't have any yet, but we could pick some up. You can see like Exploit Openings would have it. That's actually very tempting, but it doesn't do anything for us at the moment. You can stack a lot of poison. Poison's really powerful. Again, if this was upgraded, maybe. But I'm actually tempted to just take a lot of these shards. Shuffle more. Okay, this is quite cool. So Grimoire of Flames costs 3, which is the same as a fireball. It shuffles 2 fireballs into your deck, so you don't get it now. But those would be fireballs that cost 0. They have the built-in vanish, so they're one-shots. But that is kind of cool. And of course, we can upgrade the Grimoire. We can make it not vanish itself. I don't think that would be the case. But this upgrade version would generate 2 upgraded fireballs. And gain a thing. The Grimoire of Flames is quite tempting. There's also some interesting book synergy. On the other hand, Scroll of Intellects are fantastic. And again, I like to upgrade them to this blue version. Or, sorry, not to the blue version. The yellow version. This already is upgraded to the yellow version, which I love. So I'm actually going to go and grab that because it's just so generally good all the time. These are expensive, but they're not bad. Perseverance. Perseverance is really huge. If it was upgraded, I might take it. It feels a little expensive right now. I think I want the shards for some upgrades on this particular run. I'm not saying these are the right decisions, but I'm going to do that. You know, I'm just going to take a bunch of shards. Probably it's not correct, but we'll see. We got to level up on our characters as well. So we get to pick from 1 of 2 different ranks. This next level, level 3, tends to be the really crazy one. So this adds a focus heal. So it is a self buff. I cast it on myself, and then when the next heal spell goes off, it doubles the healing. Or Divine Retribution, cast it on myself, and then for the next 4 times I get hit, it hits them back for holy damage, and it gains charges of Bless on me. So I'm going to grab that. We're going to add, I like Fireproof over here for Cornelius. I like Wild Hunt for Eindrin, and for Heiner, I want the Steel Forge. Cool. We get some rewards, and then we get some items as well, including like the amazing for this stage of the game, the Ilmer's Branch. So this is, you know, green quality. It's not the rarest of all things, but our heals get +1, and then when we play a healing spell, we gain some regeneration, which seems really good for us right now. If with Eindrin we were doing a poison deck, we'd probably want salt, but I don't really do that much poison with him right now. And of course, we can skip items as well. It might be worth swapping the slippers for the Shield of Thorns for Heiner. Gives him more resistances, and 2 times every turn when I play a defense card, I gain 2 stacks of Thorn. I could do that, or I could pick up Yggdrasil's Root, which would replace his Reforged Core, but combat start, you gain some self-healing, like some regeneration, and some Thorns, which is kind of nice. I think the Shield of Thorns is going to be better than the Slippers for Heiner. And do we want anything for Eindrin? So, I mean, he's already got a accessory and he's got a suit of armor. And the salt charge... No, I think you're just going to take some gold. And then Cornelius... I mean, we could just take this. I mean, the question is, would I rather the 100 gold or an item of questionable thing? Just having the bandages as a little bit of refilling. We've got some combat bandages over here, but at the end of combat, we'd heal 8. That could be really handy. Yggdrasil root, I'm not convinced with, although you do have low HP. I might just take the bandages for now so we get a little bit of healing in between rounds. And then, yeah, we go here, and you can see we get a hint. So there's different places we can go, including some places where you need DLC. But we get a note that, oh, this quest here, we have to go to this green area to continue. So we go there, we get a new map, a little bit more story, and then here's the new map outline, and we can see a few things. First of all, we've got a question mark in the spider's lair. This is where we get the vial of poison for that. But we've also got the Lonely Rock, which is how we might unlock the Sad Minstrel, and we've got the Voodoo Hut, which is maybe how we unlock someone else whose name I can't remember. I think we need items. We need an item for this one, and I'm not sure where to pick it up yet. I could probably spoiler myself, but what I'm always on the lookout for is some of these events, and it might have been in the previous act, events that are question marks that I haven't seen yet. Like, oh, what is, maybe this leads to something interesting. I don't know. But first, we'd have to go through another town, and we do the upgrades. We still have the chests waiting for us if we want to do that, and we can still remove some cards, although it's no longer free to remove the cards at this point. And I think that's what I want to do. Again, I want to keep my deck as tight as possible so that the cards that I'm focusing on to build my combo, I want those to come up as often as possible. I want my card draws to be as predictable as possible so I can base around it. So I'm usually really trying to aggressively trim these down. It always hurts to rip out something that you've upgraded. Like at some point I might decide to remove the coat of arms. It's like, oh man, it's upgraded and everything, but it might be what is called for. Speaking of upgrades, oh, and I did get some supplies, but I don't have enough to unlock anything new in the town right now. But like for Cornelius, upgrading the Scroll of Intellects over to the yellow side is great. Now, the cost to upgrade depends on the rarity. Flare is common rarity, super mega cheap to upgrade. Searing Touch is the green rarity, uncommon, I guess, so it's a little bit more expensive. Blue is the next most expensive, and if we had purple or gold, they would be very expensive. Notice some of these have a little bit of a lock. They cannot be modified over here. You can still remove them for a deck, but we can't do an upgrade. So if we weren't happy with them, there would be that. And again, the Fireball, I'm kind of in favor of going with the Vanish variant of Fireball. But again, the Scroll of Intellects, the yellow Scroll of Intellects are so good and just such a no-brainer. They cost 0, so why not use them all the time? Notice this Scroll of Intellect has a new symbol over here, which is the Innate, which would start in your hand at the start of the game. And that's pretty cool too. Here's the thing, with the Scroll of Intellect, like no matter what variant you're playing, it does give you 1 draw and 1 energy. The gold variant gives you the 1 draw now. The others still give it to you later. And honestly, starting it in your hand and then doing a bit of a setup is okay. It backloads the draw. I like the yellow ones just because it's slightly better for tempo. Oh yes, definitely. I have no doubt I want to get rid of Foresight. I don't care about these draws so much. They're probably handier when you haven't run into a particular type of enemy before. It's probably handier to be able to get a bit of intel, but you also just learn after a few fights. So getting rid of those, I mean, they cost 0, but they still cost you a draw, and I don't like that. A good candidate for upgrading is the Healing Rain. So Healing Rain is global. It affects all units, you friendly and enemy, gives them all regen, and applies a stack of wet. Wet removes burn, and it increases lightning damage that it takes. Healing Rain, I really like the variant here that is just for all heroes. And this dispels burn. It doesn't apply any wet. It just straight up dispels burn, which Cornelius might love sometimes and might hate other times. And then it grants regen, but again, this variant would be only your own characters. So that's quite nice. I think this is an absolute no-brainer without Cornelius. With Cornelius, it might still be required to reset his self-burn. I don't know. Cornelius is a little scary that way. He's a little cray-cray. But he's a lot of fun. I also quite like the Reginald upgrade on heal here, which makes heal cheaper, but makes it vanish. I don't necessarily need to spam these heals nonstop, especially at a cost of 2. Like, even upgraded, like you can go up to 17. This is expensive for a pretty vanilla heal. I think these base heals are something that you do probably ultimately want to purge from your deck, probably the barriers as well, right? I might want to go to the church and remove them once I have more cards. For example, with Reginald, there's, if I look up just heal cards, like compare Binding Heal to my other heal. This costs 2, heals my target, but also heals me, right? This seems clearly better than basic heal. Absolutely no questions whatsoever. Or even Benediction. Again, clearly better than basic heal because, okay, it heals slightly less, but it gives charges of Bless. And actually, it gives the Bless charges first, and that increases the amount of heal you receive. So presumably, Benediction actually heals for more than it looks like, and it increases their damage. So the base heal spells are kind of meh. So I might want to remove them from my deck, or I can upgrade them to the variant that makes them cheaper and burns itself. First of all, the fact that it's cheaper makes it that much more valuable, and then it removes itself. Now, it'll still be there at the start of every combat, but as I go through the fight, it cleans itself up. You know, turning Flash into either free or a card draw is kind of nice, but I think these are really good candidates for removal. Really good candidates for removal because it's not that they're not necessarily like efficient for the energy cost. I just don't feel that they're efficient for the draw, especially in a situation where I might be desperate for Reggie to draw a heal. That's why I'm a big fan of the yellow upgrade for Barrier, because it's the instant heal now and removes itself to sort of self-thin as you play. I might pay to upgrade these, especially these are common cards. They're really cheap to upgrade. I might pay crystals to upgrade and then also remove them from my deck later on. But like, let's say we get around to doing this, right? We've got lots of super cheap heals that thin themselves out because I won't necessarily use these all the time. I love this breakdown of like the cost of cards, average entry cost. And then for the smite, like I might be like, okay, so these have gotten cheaper, the self-purging. Maybe I want to go with the more expensive version of Holy Smite that also applies Sanctify, because Sanctify lets your people heal via attacking. And maybe that's why I don't need a bunch of heal spells. If I just spam infinite amounts of Sanctify on enemies, then my units can self-heal simply by attacking. Yeah, like, man, I don't know. I'm still like learning how I prefer to play. I really feel like the instant return on the Scroll of Intellect is worthwhile. Oh, I guess here's one of the differences. With Scroll of Intellect, you can cast it on any hero, not just yourself. And you can transmute. Normally it costs money. One of the upgrades in my town lets me go and transmute from one version to another for free. So if I change my mind about which way to go, I can do that. So I can cast the Scroll of Intellect on anyone, and it by default grants them the Energize and the Inspire. With the yellow version, it's always Cornelius that's going to draw the card, but you still grant the energy to someone else. And so the blue version, right? If we just start, I could do something crazy, like start with 3 Scroll of Intellects in my starting hand by doing this. And I drop all 3 of these. Yeah, the card starts the combat at the top of the deck. So it's not a free draw. It's not an extra card in hand. It just guarantees that I draw all these. I can drop them on a bunch of people to help them get initially set up, right? Including myself. I can just drop all 3 Scrolls of Intellects on Cornelius, and next round, I will have a bunch of cards and a bunch of energy, which is something to be said. Like the Scroll of Intellect, yes, it draws me a card now, but if I don't have the mana, is it that useful? So I think there's some interesting discussion there. And one of the things I might want to do is like split it. I might want to do this. Let's guarantee start with 1 Scroll of Intellect that I can cast on anyone. And then the others are the more selfish version with the instant draw. These are completely valid things. I still think I really like the idea of turning Fireball into the one-shot variant, because I don't think I have to spam Fireball continuously. When I want it to hit, I want it to hit as hard as possible. But in theory, after I've recycled my deck a couple of times, hopefully we're down to maybe just 1 boss, in which case the Fireballs, I mean, it's a huge burst amount of damage, but energy-wise, it's not quite as efficient anymore. So that becomes, very tempting. I don't know about the 3-cost Flare. That is pretty unlikely. Oh, I really like the yellow version of Searing Touch that adds Vulnerable. So the blue version just increases the damage. I think that tends to be consistent. The blue version tends to be more or less the same, but a little bit better, right? Inner Combustion, same thing. The numbers are just a little bit bigger. Whereas the yellow one changes some of the mechanics a little bit. All right, it's a little well, no, even here. So say it's less evident with the combustion. Anyway, so I like the Searing Touch that adds a Vulnerable here, because It just increases all the damage that thing takes. I really am a big fan of that. Although I'm out of resources again. You know, we've got this. You can re-roll this as well. I don't always spend money on the items because very likely, you know, we're hoping to find something, you know, stronger as we go. But at the same time, some of these items are cheap if we find a second one. And if we've got empty slots, like, don't we want to fill it? So, for example, Cornelius has no jewelry slot. Maybe we want to give him some bling. It's pretty legit. You know, I got the money. So we'll do that. And be on a lookout if you can get a second copy of something, because the corrupted versions are very cool. So Reginald doesn't have anything in the armor slot. Hey, maybe the brigand armor. Speed, so you can go a little bit ahead of time, maybe drop a heal right before someone attacks. That can make a big difference. Andrin still doesn't have a weapon. I could give him the fork. It adds +2 range damage. I don't know if he's got food cards in his inventory. Or the longbow. How about that? Oh, I could, if I went longbow, I could just make you be a range focus, because piercing damage goes up by 2. It's worth noting, let me buy that. And if we take a look at Andrin, the Rupture isn't a range attack, it's a melee attack, although it does do piercing damage. So the longbow is piercing damage increases by 2, and 1 time per turn when I play a ranged attack, so that would be an actual ranged attack, like aim shot, which I said I wasn't as into, we would get to draw a card. So this item kind of informs how we might want to build this character with this longbow, because we actually might keep this longbow for a long time and just go full range on Andrin. In which case, yeah, I might look to craft more range cards or to purge non-range cards. Like, maybe I want to get rid of these slices. Slices aren't bad, and you can make them free, although it does lower their damage substantially. This yellow version adds the mark stuff, which stacks damage. But since it's not piercing, and it's not ranged, it starts to feel like maybe we start to remove the slices. The Ruptures are piercing. They're not ranged, but they are piercing, and they apply the bleed. I think the Ruptures are quite good. Maybe need some upgrades, but we can do that. Again, I've got all this money, and if this were going to be a real serious push run, I probably would have done that. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode here. An introduction to Across the Obelisk, which I think is a swell game and has just absolutely grabbed my attention since I started playing it. Really find it enjoyable. I find it like challenging because I'm still learning, you know, a lot of the mechanics. The different maps to explore are interesting. Like, for example, on this map, there are a couple of different ways we can path through that require boats. So here and here, these are a couple of different ways we can grab a boat. This one's more expensive, but we can get there very quickly. This one's a little cheaper, but it's slightly longer and takes an alternate route. And it depends where I'm trying to go for different things. Or I could ignore those 2 boat locations completely, head down south. First of all, go and visit this event that I've never seen, and then go into the Spider's Lair, where I can follow up on the quest for Thule, which again won't unlock the character because I've already unlocked it, but I think we'd still get a reward, an item reward from it. There's also certain mini bosses and things. Like in here, there's going to be a big spider boss with, I think, a particular item that she always drops. Like, you know, we just saw what happens when we get a list of items and we get to pick which ones we want to equip to people. Well, some bosses will do that, but we'll always include a particular item. Like, for example, actually, with Reggie, Ilmer's branch always drops from Ilmer, as far as I know. In fact, I think there was 2 Ilmer items in there. So the meta pathing is huge. And again, this is in the adventure mode. If you play in the Obelisk mode, everything is completely randomized. And so you don't know what you're going to expect. But with the adventure mode, you can route depending on what you're looking for and how much knowledge of the sort of meta aspects of the game there is. Folks, thanks a lot for watching this. There might be some more of this content coming up. It's not, do I continue this run? Part of me wants to, if I'm going to do the run, wants me to do it with like actual investments. I suppose I still could have I could have popped a chest in this town and actually gone ham on specializing our people, especially Andrin here. Now that we've got sort of a direction, I could have added some more range cards and then purged more of the melee ones. That probably would have been the thing to do. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have you played this game? Who your favorite characters are? What kind of builds you like doing for them? This game really doesn't get a lot of attention. It really flew under the radar. The reviews for it are fantastic. It's just the only negative reviews that I can see are the standard ones, people complaining about like DLC. And the game's 3 years old and you don't want more content for it? That seems weird. I'm a big fan of living continuous games. I'm not a fan of people releasing a game disappearing for 5 years, and then, hey, now we've got version 2, and then they disappear for 5 years, now we've got game number 3. No. If a game is good and has good bones, I want you to keep adding content for it. Now, we can talk all day about DLC pricing. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But I really like, if it's a game I like, I want more stuff for it. Like, comparing this game to Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is fantastic. Where's my extra Slay the Spire content? Oh, well, there's a Slay the Spire 2. But Slay the Spire 1 was still good. And I still wanted more stuff for Slay the Spire 1. You know what I mean? But it's fine to have different philosophies for these game developers. But yeah, this is great. Some of the characters are even multi-class, which is really fascinating to me. Yeah, that's the end of the video. I don't know. Let me know. We'll see how much traction this video gets, and do I continue this run? Do I start a new one? We'll see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.